welcome back to Planet X News. This is Scott from the NIBIRU channel. Today we are going to be speaking with our physicist, and we're going to be going over some information that occurred back on March 23rd and 24th, and this is concerning a complete magnetosphere and magnetopause collapse. Ladies and gentlemen, this was a very serious situation that occurred back on March 23rd, and it just so happens that during this 4 hours of footage, NASA immediately deleted this footage and we were not able to see it. However, one of our Planet X researchers, and his name's Pete, he has a fantastic YouTube channel, WHDCO, and I'll leave a link to his YouTube channel. I actually previewed this information in a video 2 days ago, and Pete was able to capture this information before NASA deleted it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you have to take into consideration, why would they go to the extent to delete this information and replace it with something that would look normal or basic information pertaining to the magnetosphere? And if you don't know what the magnetosphere is, well, this is what protects us from the solar winds from the sun. It continually gets buffeted by the solar winds whenever we have these coronal holes. And as of lately, once again, we have coronal holes opening up on the sun just about every single week. And this has been going on now for, well, I'd have to say pretty close to a year, almost a year and a half. So we have our physicist here, and she's a very, very busy lady, but she's been researching what has been going on. We also have another situation that occurred, and this has to do with Jupiter, well, what NASA labeled as Jupiter, creating a very large plasma loop, or what seems to be this huge flare or plasma ejection from Jupiter. Now, as I've mentioned in the beginning of March, we were going to be going into this very critical planetary alignment with Jupiter, Venus, the Earth, and the Sun. And this was going to be a very critical time for us here on Earth. Simply, Jupiter has a massive magnetic field. The Earth has a magnetic field. And when these two planets are going to interact, basically we're going to have a magnetic portal connection between these planets and the sun. We already have the theories and pretty much evidence pertaining to the presence of a brown dwarf star or several brown dwarf stars in our inner solar system. And this type of magnetic portal connection with all of these objects can and will be very devastating. And ladies and gentlemen, we are only in the beginning of what is possibly going to occur. So we have the doctor here. She's going to go over some of this information. She has written a paper on it, but before we get to that, we're going to go over Pete's video footage. And I actually think that Pete is probably the only one in the world right now that actually captured this information before it was deleted. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull up this information. So, doctor, how are you? How's everything going?
I'm fine, thank you, Scott. And how are you?
Well, you know, under the circumstances, I could probably be a lot better, but there is so much happening around the world, so much happening with our planet, so much happening within our inner solar system. You know, it makes me wonder sometimes whenever I go to sleep at night, with what little sleep I get, whenever I wake up, what's going to be on my plate today. But whenever I looked at this information and I got word of this, what happened in the middle part of March, was very startling, because we've had several magnetosphere and magnetopause collapses, reversals. I believe we had one last April 2016, then again in October of 2016, and now here we are in, you know, March, the middle of March of 2017, and it occurred again. But this time it was very violent. I'm just going to have to use the word because I have never seen anything like this before. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the actual video footage that Pete was able to capture.
Yes.
And just let me go ahead. I'm going to share my screen for everybody.
Okay.
And we could go ahead and we'll take this apart piece by piece.
Yeah, it's actually, as you say, extremely violent. It's totally unexpected. You cannot imagine a thing like this actually happening. The magnetopause actually collapses completely, and the Earth is left defenseless, it seems.
Yeah, I would say defenseless is actually the perfect word because, again, I mean, I was able to see what happened last April. I was able to see what happened last October. But this time it just seems that NASA was right on top of it. I think they knew something like this was about to occur, and they immediately deleted the footage and replaced it with, maybe some animated footage from a period of time when the magnetosphere was actually looking pretty normal. So I'm going to go ahead and play this, and if you want to be our sportscaster and give everyone a little play-by-play on what you're observing and what you think is happening. So I'll go ahead and play it.
I mean, the magnetopause just about disappears. It folds on itself. It becomes totally chaotic. The solar wind goes right in. You can actually see the radiation going right in towards the Earth. So it's unbelievable. I didn't even think this was possible.
Yeah,
amazing to watch.
I've never seen it this violent. And I'm going to go ahead and stop it right there. And I'm just going to give all of our viewers a quick explanation of what we're looking at. And ladies and gentlemen, you can see the sun over here to the right. And that would be the actual positioning of the sun. Naturally, this would be the positioning of the Earth. And this structure that you are seeing here that's just all intertwined is supposed to be an arc around the front of the Earth. They refer to it as the bow shock. So as solar winds come from the sun at well over 1 million miles per hour, they impact the bow shock and they are deflected away from our planet. So whenever this bow shock is collapsed in this fashion, everything coming from the sun directly impacts the Earth. This situation is very dangerous, very detrimental to every living creature on this Earth. And they covered it up again. But the big question is, how does this happen? Why is this happening? And it seems like this is happening with a pattern and with frequency. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to play this. And if you want to take over, Doctor, you can.
So Scott, what you see is actually a higher density on the wrong side of the Earth. That is on the side away from the sun. As you can see, that red spot, that's where the density is higher.
Yeah, right up
for solar particles. Okay, so you see it's on the wrong side. It's supposed to be higher on the solar side, not on that side. You can see that's the high radiation going right into the Earth. It's just flowing right in. Yeah, because the magnetosphere is not protecting the Earth at this time. So everybody on Earth got hit by a whole lot of radiation at that time.
Yeah, this was very, very bad. This was a very, very bad situation. Yeah. I mean, I think sometimes that, maybe the boys in blue at NASA don't know. I just don't think they know what to do when these situations arise. I don't think that they want to warn everyone, but it's not only NASA, it's every space agency on this planet because they all look at the same thing and they all know what is happening right now. So I'm going to go ahead and let this play on.
Yeah. So the only way this could possibly happen is if another object with a high magnetic field was somehow affecting the Earth. So this is the only way, and it's possibly, it's either behind the Earth or below or above the Earth. I don't think it's on the solar side, because on the solar side, it wouldn't do this to the magnetosphere. It's got to come in sort of from behind and make it collapse.
Now, the last time this occurred, the last time that this did occur, It was
Yes.
it wasn't as violent,
Mhm.
but this time it just looks absolutely crazy.
Yes.
And I mean, I would have to say that, you're pretty right on target. Whatever was causing this was definitely coming from another direction and not from the direction of the sun towards the earth. Because if
Yeah.
that was the case, it would have collapsed the magnetopause around the earth and
That's
not
right.
the opposite way towards the sun. And it looked like it just completely dismantled it. And this went
Mhm.
on for, I don't know, I think Pete referred to it as this happened for like 4 hours or maybe
Wow.
even more. Now, ladies
Mm.
and gentlemen, what we're looking at here is the magnetosphere. And usually these lines, all of these spaghetti lines that you see, they will usually be flowing in a very nice pattern behind the earth. These are
Yeah.
the magnetic field lines, and this is all computer animated, but this is the way they read it. Now, everything that you see here, all of this scattering of all of these lines is total disorientation. So I'm going to go
Mhm.
ahead and play this, and Doctor, you can go ahead and take over and tell
Yeah.
us.
Well, they go completely chaotic, and as you mentioned, I looked at the reversal in October of last year, and it was worse than the April one of 2016. So it looks like they're all getting worse, and this is the worst we've seen so far.
Yeah, there's
And
no.
the magnetic field lines go completely chaotic. It's like they don't know which way to flow anymore because the Earth is being impacted from the wrong direction.
Yeah,
And it's
I've never seen.
obviously,
Yeah, I've
and
never
look
seen
at that object. I mean, that has to be something there. That is not anything to do with the Earth's magnetic field. That's another object causing that. That's the intense black lines all together, entangled together. That looks like an object was behind the Earth there.
That would be causing this behind the earth,
Yeah.
or somewhere off in the distance.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that I did want to ask you, whenever you're looking over here in the lower right-hand corner, where they have the little color
Yeah.
scheme, where it's blue,
Yeah.
light blue, green. So as
Yeah.
we, these are pressures, correct? I think
Yeah,
these
well, densities basically.
are densities.
They can either be pressures or densities, and it looks like density there. So the red is the highest density of particles, and the blue is the lowest density.
Yeah, and I think
So whenever you have blue, you have low density.
Yeah,
But
so
the black is just the magnetic field lines themselves. So when you see a whole lot of black lines entangled together, like you see there behind the Earth, looks like a source of magnetic field right there. Okay,
wow,
that's what it looks like to me.
it's
I've
very
never
scary
seen that.
looking.
Yeah, I've never seen that sort of thing before. We usually only have the Earth's magnetic field. So, but now we have all these objects in the solar system that are obviously, they are in a solar system, and you know, they could go anywhere and be even close to the Earth. And as we will see just now, I think you've shown me, there must be an object close to the Earth there.
You know, this portion of the magnetosphere, this is, I mean, I'm kind of a loss for words when looking at this, because as you can see, the density is just very intense.
Yeah, well, at
the
least the density there is higher on the solar side, but then you see, oh, there it goes completely chaotic, and you see the green coming in behind the Earth, so on outside orbit of the Earth, and that is not normal. And of course, the magnetic field lines are all over the place. They're going totally chaotic. So they don't know which way to flow, because they must be at two solar winds affecting the Earth. That's what I think is happening here. And so there's the solar wind from the sun, and there's probably the solar wind from another star. And it's causing the magnetic field lines to go totally crazy. I think that's what's happening. And the radiation is coming in behind the Earth. We don't know if that's solar radiation or if that's radiation from this other object.
Now, if I were to say to you, okay, listen, Doc, this was just a computer glitch. This was just a malfunction.
Yeah.
And your professional opinion and response to me would be?
Well, the first thing is, why did they delete it if it was a malfunction?
Exactly.
That's the first thing. And the next thing is, I mean, these things are measurements taken by satellites and modeled. The satellites measured something that led to this. It's not just a glitch. A glitch would happen for a second and then it will be gone. This happened for hours.
Yeah,
and they removed it.
4 hours to be exact.
Yeah, okay, 4 hours. I mean, no, it doesn't look like a computer glitch. It looks like a progression of something that's happening to the Earth's magnetosphere. And because it's being affected by something that's not normal to the solar system.
You know, and here's a little observation of mine. And,
yes.
You know, just listening to you, that just made me think that if this was a computer glitch, why would they not just leave it there, release a statement in general that this is what happened? Why would they go ahead and replace it with normal looking footage to deceive you?
Exactly. Of course. It's deception. And the deception shows you that they're not only hiding what just happened here, there's a lot more that they are hiding. They are prepared to go to any lengths to deceive people and make them believe that everything is normal. And things are not normal, as we know. Okay, that looks a bit better. It looks blue and the lines are straight, but there's still a bit of chaotic lines on the solar side.
Yeah,
on the sun-facing side.
Yeah,
the lines are still.
Yeah, it's completely dismantled on the front side. You can see a lot over here, the lower right-hand corner. You can see the higher densities moving in, and it definitely is quite chaotic. And we'll move in because once again, just that little bit of time when things started to look normal, probably for just a few minutes, or I don't know the exact time lapse on this, but then boom, once again, you see all of
there's the entanglement of black lines. I don't like that at all. It shows there's another source of magnetic field. That's what it looks like to me behind the Earth.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
So
the Earth was definitely interacting with something, and then here we go again. Just another frame, and once again, complete and utter chaos with our magnetosphere.
Yes.
And it just doesn't end. It just keeps on happening. And this, once again, this is just a complete tangled mess.
It is. It's chaotic.
Yes, we'll go ahead and
you can see the green and the yellow close to the Earth. Do you see that? The radiation is going right up to the Earth. The magnetosphere is not protecting the Earth at this time. And there you see green and yellow amongst all that entanglement of lines. So the radiation is going everywhere. There's hardly any blue there.
Yeah, it almost seems like nowhere on the face of this planet were you protected. Because I guess, you think, okay, well, if I was on the dark side of the Earth, I would be protected, because it would be impacting the daytime side of the Earth, and I would be in the clear if I was in the nighttime. But as you can clearly see, nowhere on this planet at this particular time were you kind of, I'll use the word safe because of what was occurring.
That's right. You definitely were not safe. These particles impacted the atmosphere. They interacted with the atmosphere. They probably caused cascades of particles. And if we had fast solar wind impacting, these are fast particles, so we would get all kinds of things happening, gamma radiation, everything going right into the Earth's atmosphere. Of course, the atmosphere would offer a little bit of protection because the particles would interact. And, they would get electrons from the particles in the atmosphere. So it would decrease as it goes down towards the surface, but, we'd still get high radiation from this.
Yeah, no, this
and this kind of thing causes cancer,
Yeah, I actually did a video on your report on the effects of all of this on the human brain and the body. I mean, I got a lot of emails from people that were telling me the way that they were feeling, and I mean, I think that I'm very sensitive to what occurs with what's happening with our son. I did tell the story about what happened to me the day after Christmas. I mean, I was literally struck down by, by something that was not a flu, it was not a cold, it was not an illness, but whatever it was, it affected me. And just that day, we were right in the stream of a coronal hole and these solar winds, and I was outside for about 4 hours in the sunshine in December on the 26th. It was 62 degrees.
Wow.
I live, and it should have been in the low 30s. We should have had snow. It should have been freezing. Yeah. But we have the climate chaos going on around the world. Now, I know Pete's footage does, this is weird. Wow. That just doesn't, yeah, that doesn't even look normal. Now, Pete's footage does include what happens with the solar wind. And this is another model. And this is very strange.
It is very strange. It's very interesting as well, because, as I said, there has to be two solar winds interacting for the magnetosphere to behave like this. And as you play it, the reversal happens below the Earth. It's like there's an object there right below the Earth. You see the arrows are diverging from a point below the Earth.
Yes.
So they're pointing towards the sun on the sun-facing side, and they're pointing away from the sun on the side facing away from the sun. So the only way that can happen is if there's an object right there below the Earth that's having its own solar wind, and it's causing this solar wind to diverge away from that point. So that shows to me there's an object there. Yes. And you see the radiation is higher below the Earth, and it's blue above.
So, in your professional opinion, this just can't happen.
No, it cannot happen unless there's another star below the Earth. I mean, it sounds crazy. Why would there be a star? But I have written before. I mean, I've written in that article published last week, where I say there's an object very close to the Earth. And this could be the same object. It's obviously, to produce a solar wind, it's got to be a star. It's not a planet. Okay, Jupiter cannot do this. It cannot create a solar wind. It has a high magnetic field, but this shows there's a solar wind flowing out of that point just below the Earth. It's the only way that the arrows, which indicate the direction of the solar wind, diverge from a point below the Earth. It's the only explanation. And as you can see, the radiation, it's yellow below the Earth. Okay, that shows you that there's radiation coming from there as well. And look at all the arrows. They're diverging away from that point. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's no wonder they deleted this, because anybody who examines this can tell there's an object there that's causing a solar wind. How is it possible? Well, that's why I come up with all these new theories about the strong force acting on an astronomical scale. It's the only explanation I can come up with for this sort of thing happening. But we can see from here, there's something extremely strange happening here. It's unbelievable.
I would have to definitely agree. And I look at these models every single day for years. And I see sometimes little strange anomalies, and you can tell whenever the Earth is under an assault from a solar wind stream coming from a coronal hole. But very rarely, and I mean very rarely, do you see a situation like this. And when you see a situation like this, you have to understand that this is in no way, shape, or form normal. This is a situation that doesn't occur with any type of frequency to our planet.
That's right.
And what you're saying, I mean, I have to agree with you 100%. This has to be an object or objects, plural, that are interfering with our planet, and probably most definitely the sun, because the sun,
definitely.
Yeah, the sun. I think the sun is in it's in a critical stage. Once again, moving through these clips. Once again, I mean, you're seeing.
Look at that.
Yeah, you're seeing this intensity.
Yeah, you see the arrows diverging from a point below the Earth. It's like they originate from a point below the Earth. It's like there's a source of solar wind right there. there is no other way to explain how these arrows can point on either side away from a point below the Earth.
Yeah, here's another,
there has to be,
good clip. Yeah, here's another good clip. I'm just moving frame by frame, and this one's more critical than the last frame. I mean, this definitely shows exactly what you're talking about. You're dealing with the little arrow.
So the solar wind,
I'm going to explain to the viewers how these little arrows work. Well, ladies and gentlemen, these arrows, they will actually get longer or shorter according to the speed of the solar winds. So if they're longer in length, the solar winds are coming at a higher speed. If they are shorter, they're coming in at a lower speed. So when you're looking at these arrows, normally they all face from right to left. That is the normal presence of these little arrows. But what the doctor is showing you here is very clear, very clear. These arrows, this energy is coming up, impacting the Earth from here. And you can see it's color-coded, it's clear as day. And then these arrows, if you follow my cursor, these arrows are pointing the opposite direction and back towards the sun. This is in no way, shape, or form a glitch in the spacecraft that monitors all of this. This is absolutely something, I would have to say, very large, very powerful, interacting with our planet.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's not normal to have the arrows pointing towards the sun. They're supposed to point away from the sun because it's the sun's solar wind that produces those arrows. But the fact that they're pointing towards the sun means there's another source of solar wind that's actually more powerful than the sun's solar wind, that it can turn the direction of solar wind in the opposite direction, in other words, towards the sun. And you see, look at the radiation there. It's red right below the Earth. How is that possible? Because there's a source, it seems, right below the Earth of this radiation.
Yeah, this this one here, this clip, this looks really bad.
Yes, it does. That's one of the worst. Both the radiation and the arrows point to an object being there that's a source of solar wind. A source of solar wind has to be a star. There has to be a star there. How it's possible that the Earth is so close to a star? Well, I would say that it's not a normal star. And we'll go back to what I always get back to, which is brown dwarf stars. And
in our solar system.
That's right. And these brown dwarf stars have to be in our solar system. Only a star can generate something like that. It's obviously, I mean, if it was our sun that close to the Earth, I mean, I think we'd all be dead. But this star is obviously not producing as much radiation as the sun. It is producing its own solar wind. But yeah, it's obviously a small star. And it gains energy by being in the solar system and interacting with the sun. There you see the arrow starting to go back to their normal positions. There it goes. Although some of them above the Earth on the solar-facing side were still facing the wrong way.
Now,
but there you go.
Yeah, what I did notice
yeah.
on this footage, when I was running it in full speed, in full motion,
yes,
what I noticed is this energy was coming in pulses. For instance, we're kind of looking at it frame by frame for
yes.
To analyze it. But when I watched this in full speed, these waves of energy, they just came in waves and just impacted the Earth, and then it would come in again and impact the Earth, and then come in again, back and forth.
Yes.
See, now here we go again.
Yeah.
I'm just moving frame by frame.
Yeah, so obviously the star is emitting pulses of radiation, and it's emitting solar wind in pulses as well. That's interesting. I mean, it could be that it's a fast rotating star.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that these brown dwarfs, they normally have a pretty fast rotation, correct?
Yes, they do. And sometimes they only have emissions from certain points on their surfaces. So they could have like only from one point, and they're surrounded by a cloud. So they will blow a hole through that cloud. That's why you then see an object with a hole in it. The core of the star is inside the plasma cloud or the ionized gas cloud. And then it's got one point on its surface where it emits a sharp signal or a plasma discharge or a CME from that point. So that point blows a hole right through the cloud. And then you get a hole in the cloud. And if you look into the cloud, you see this, the core of the star inside it. And there have been many pictures taken of these objects. They look like they have a hole in them. That's what it is. And some of them will emit from two sides, and they rotate quite fast. So as they rotate, you get hit. One side faces the Earth, and then you get to the other point, and in between there's an interval of time where you get nothing, and then you get the next emission hitting the Earth as the object rotates around. So that could be what's happening here. So they rotate fast because they are collapsed objects, and collapsed objects rotate faster because of conservation of angular momentum as they collapse. So that's what you would expect from brown dwarf stars as well.
Here's another interesting frame.
Yeah,
right
look
here.
at that.
Yeah, this is just beyond a shadow of a doubt, something producing this amount of energy directly.
Definitely.
Yeah, there's just no doubt. You know, and what really bugs me is, you know, when people say, you know, the theories that you're coming up with, meaning me, not you, but meaning me, because I've always had the theory going all the way back to, you know, Dr. Robert Harrington and Zachariah Sitchin about this brown dwarf star, and reading a lot of information that was put out by Carlos Ferrata.
Yes.
That was a very long time ago that their research was conducted.
Yeah.
And technology since then has improved.
Yes.
And our investigations, and more people are looking at the situation as we get closer and closer.
That's right.
You know, I don't think that any of these gentlemen had access to this type of information that we're looking at today, you know, in order to come to conclusions. And when you're looking at this, just having it explained to you for the first time, I mean, this is just basic directions.
That's right.
Meaning directions of the arrow, directions where the energy is coming from. And then you have to come to a conclusion. Okay, what is out there in the universe, in the galaxy, that can produce this type of effect?
Yeah.
So we know it's not a planet, so it has to be a star of some sort.
It has to be a star. It's the only way. It's only a star produces a solar wind. Planets don't produce solar winds. I mean, not even gas giants produce a solar wind. It's impossible. They have to have plasma. They have to have ejections, CMEs. They have to have things like coronas. They have to produce a lot of energy and heat in order to be they have to have a high magnetic field. They have to I believe in the electrical theory because I don't think the normal theory explains it. So they have to have a high electrical potential energy to be able to sustain this kind of ejection and solar wind. It's the only way. So it has to be a star. And I mean,
I'm going to ask you a hypothetical question, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but this thought just entered my mind. With all of the information that we just looked at, and you're coming to your conclusions on what you believe is causing this. If there was another physicist or astrophysicist or even an astronomer sitting in the same room as you, looking at the same information, do you think that they would come up with the same conclusions that you are? Being a highly trained individual?
It would take a lot to convince them, Scott, because even I, if this was at the beginning of my investigations, I would look at this and I would say, well, it does look very strange, but it doesn't go with what I believe is possible. Okay. So I would say, well, maybe it is a computer problem. I really have to think about it. I would consider it, and I would say, okay, I need to find other evidence to go with this Okay, so I would start investigating. Basically, this is what happened with me when I saw what was happening in the sky, and I thought this is not normal, but I could be wrong. It doesn't make any sense. I started looking into it. I started finding more and more evidence to show that indeed there was something very strange going on. But don't forget, when I started writing my papers, I was also thinking, like a lot of people are still thinking, there are objects that are coming in towards the solar system. I wasn't thinking they were exactly here already, although I sometimes thought they were, but I wasn't sure because, you know, it takes a while for your mind to cope with what's really going on, because this stuff is being hidden and you're getting all kinds of disinformation. And most physicists, as far as I'm concerned, are brainwashed with the theory they were taught as students and that they are even using now to do their research. All the theories from the Big Bang model to thermonuclear reactions powering the sun tell you all this is impossible. And this is what you are taught. It's like a brainwashing program for physicists. I mean, we are taught to look at observation. We taught from the beginning, it's all about observation, but then we taught to believe in the theories. The theories become so important that it becomes what we believe rather than doing what we were taught to do from the beginning, which is, let's look at observations, let's see what they say, let's do an experiment, let's look for more observations, let's put it together, let's make conclusions based on observations. And this is what I have tried to do from the beginning, because I believe this is more important than whatever theories I was taught. So, but even for me, it's been a journey. You know, I've had to fight my own thinking of this is not possible. Now I look at it, and after a few months of looking at these things, I know that there are extremely strange things going on in the solar system. I've come to the conclusion there are stars closely orbiting our own sun. And most people will think, most physicists will think that's totally impossible, but that's the only possible conclusion from the evidence I have seen.
So if say, for instance, we had a gathering of some scientists and physicists and astrophysicists,
yeah,
and they were able to sit down legitimately and take a look
yes.
at a year's worth of damning evidence.
Uh-huh.
And even though based on their training and their education, and yes,
Yes.
the brainwashing, I mean, I couldn't see someone in that profession coming up with any other conclusion other
That's
than
right.
what you're stating. I mean, I am not a physicist. I mean, I understand the dynamics of our solar system. I've been at this for a very long time. I've seen a lot of very weird and crazy things going
Yes.
on over the past 16 to 18 months, you know, over a year and a half. And it just seems to me that there is a progression of these weird occurrences. There is a
That's right.
progression of hiding the information.
That's right.
I mean, that right there, if you are going to lie and hide the information, then that only tells me one thing, that something very, very wrong is going on, and you don't know what to do about it. So
that's right. I mean,
you're gonna lie.
yeah. I mean, but I can sit down with some of my colleagues. It will probably take quite a few hours. I would explain to them what's going on. I know that they would agree with me. I have sent some of this information to some of my colleagues, and they don't really want to get involved. I have the feeling that they know there's something going on, but they are afraid. Okay, they know repercussions for doing this, for being a professional physicist and talking about it. Now, I'm kind of not in the field. I'm not an astrophysicist. I mean, I know a little bit about it because I've been interested, but I cannot say that I am one. But I have been talking to some of my colleagues, and I must say that they are speechless.
Yeah.
But they don't want to get involved.
You know, over all of these years that I've been on this subject, I always say, okay, you know what, this doesn't surprise me, but in all actuality, there are times when I am completely shocked and speechless at what I'm seeing, because I always loved science, and I revert back to what I was taught. And what I was taught, those mechanics are not applying to what is happening right now. So it's like we're living in a once in a lifetime event, and we're going to go through it. We're going to possibly live through it. And we're going to see a part of, I don't even know how to word this, solar system history. I mean, that's the only way I could actually word that. But I was watching, I watched a 4-hour documentary the other day pertaining to quantum physics. And you want to talk about something completely mind-boggling and very intense. And even Albert Einstein went to his grave not believing in the theories of quantum physics. However, now, I mean, these scientists and these astrophysicists that I listened to, they all had their own theories, and they were basically banging heads on this whole confusion topic of quantum physics. I mean, they even used, you know, some clips from the old TV show Star Trek, teleportation.
Oh yes, wow.
You know, but you know, I mean, reverting back to what's happening now, I mean, this just goes to show you that, you know, how confusing this information can be to just a normal, everyday, run-of-the-mill person on this earth that doesn't know what we're looking at. You know, and these are the people that I'm trying to get through to. I'm trying to make them understand that just because they walk outside and there isn't fire and brimstone and, you know, things are falling out of the sky and, you know, people are walking around glowing in the dark because they're radiated from, you know, radiation. There are very serious situations brewing right now in our solar system, our inner solar system. And I mean, you can revert all the way back to biblical times. And like I've mentioned before, you know, Gil Broussard has done an impeccable job in his research, going all the way back to, you know, reading these Chinese writings from, I think, 4,000 or 5,000 or 6,000 years ago that depict and talk about this same subject, but in a different time. You know, and what worries me and what I think about more than what's happening out there is I think about what's going to happen here on the piece of land that we're standing on now, and all of the helpless people that really don't have a clue. You know, you're called a liar. You know, you're a liar. You're a fake. You're, you know, just, I mean, the whole bashing and harassing, simply because all you're trying to do is let people know that something is happening. You know, it's almost very simple, as if I were walking across the street with you and you weren't paying attention, and here comes a big city bus and you're about to walk out in front of the bus and be run over. And I stop you and I say, hey, you know, stop, look what's about to happen. And that's all that I am trying to do. And at this point in time, I'm going to speak for each and every YouTube channel that is out there. This is all that we're trying to do. We are not fear mongers. We're not trying to scare you to death. We're simply trying to wake you up so you have some knowledge of what is happening and you have some understanding of what is happening. And listen, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say this straight to you. The lady that is speaking with you today is taking extraordinary chances, stepping up to the plate and researching this and having the balls to come onto this platform and voice her opinions and her theories and her research. And she should not be put down or harassed or threatened in any way, simply for trying to help you out. If anything, you should hold her with high respect. And I know a lot of my viewers, all of them, have respect for me, and they're very protective of me. You know, if you look in the comment section of any of my videos, you will see, you know, these not so nice people trashing me and saying filthy, rotten things. And the viewers and the subscribers to this channel, they do defend me. And I love all you guys, and I respect each and every one of you. And I wish there would come a time that we could all meet and have, you know, one big picnic, one big party, and all be happy. But under the circumstances, ladies and gentlemen, we are not looking at happy times. We are looking at very critical times where unity and togetherness should be your first concern, because banding together, forming a unity as one, will give us power. And there are powers that be that do not want this. They want to shut the information stream down, and that's the bottom line. But you know what? It's not going to happen. It is not going to happen. And that's why I call this the awakening. All of us as human beings, brothers and sisters around the world, regardless of the color of your skin, we will come together sooner or later, and we may lose some of the battles, but we're not going to lose the war. That much is a fact. But I want to go into the recent paper.
You, Scott.
Yes, the recent paper that you wrote, and I'm going to go ahead and just blow this up. And this is something that I did a video about the other day because, well, it had me quite confused. And again, you know, I look at this video footage on Setchi and the SDO and the stereo images. I look at it every day. It is part of my routine schedule. And some of what I noticed here just kind of blew me away. And once again, we were seeing, I'll move up to the still photograph that you have in your report.
Yeah, so I analyzed some of these images. And the first thing you see there is that little black area to the left of the Earth. Okay, so there are 4 objects. They label Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Jupiter. Okay, now just because they label them like that doesn't mean that's what they are, because I've discovered they mislabeled these objects to hide the fact that there were extra stars around the sun. But the Earth seems to be the Earth, and Mercury seems to be Mercury. All right, so to the left of Earth, there's this little black area. Okay, and I've written about that. That's right. And now you see there's a vertical line right through the object that is the Earth. There's always a vertical line right through the planets. That's the interaction between the light from the sun reflected off the planet with the detector. It's got a lens. It's a visible light detection here. But there's another line to the left, and that's indicated by the green arrow. So the yellow arrow indicates the Earth line, and the green arrow indicates the line to the left. Now that line to the left means there's an object there, but there's no object other than that black area. So I think that vertical line is associated with that black object to the left of Earth. That's right.
Yeah, that actually, you know, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you straight up that, you know, a lot of these images sometimes they will doctor these images. They will color them in. They will hide things to the best of their ability. And what the doctor is referring to, these straight up and down vertical lines are called Birkeland current lines. And as you can see, you follow my cursor, there is one that goes straight up through the Earth. That one belongs to the Earth. What she's referring to is the thin line right next to it. So that line, that Birkeland current line, has to have an object attached to it in order for this Birkeland current line to be there in this photograph. It's not there. Why? Well, you can see what she's referring to, this little black shaded area right here.
Yeah.
And it does look to me like someone colored over that.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly the same thing. It looks like someone took some red paint and a little paintbrush and they painted that. Well, maybe they used paint or some program like that to do it. But that's what it looks like. Maybe an electronic paintbrush, but it looks like covered over there.
You know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to zoom into that a little bit.
And you can see that there's a black shade running, a black line running above. The blue arrow points to it. So
all of this looks out of whack.
Yeah, it does actually.
When you actually zoom in on this, just this area looks highly pixelized, very
Yes.
straight 90-degree angles.
Yeah, look at that. Exactly.
Yeah, I could see, let's zoom in a little bit more.
Yeah.
Oh my,
Yeah.
hey, look at this.
Uh-huh.
Do you see this
Yeah, look
section
at
here?
that.
There's no stars.
Yes, that's right.
And look
There's
at the
no
different
stars.
color. Well, well, well. Well, at least
Uh-huh.
we know that the boys in blue at NASA
Uh-huh.
are pretty
Yes.
damn good at paint by numbers.
That's right.
I mean, you know, I don't even know what to say. That is the worst
Yeah.
attempt at deception.
Yeah, you see, I don't think they have a lot of images to manipulate and hide things in, and they don't have much time. You see, they are trapped by the fact that they have to offer some of these images to the public. I'm sure if they could, they would not show us anything, okay?
Yeah.
But they have to show us something. So they decided to go play the deception line and deceive us in whatever way they can from seeing what's really going on.
Wow,
unfortunately for them, I keep catching them out in these images.
Look at this.
Yes, look at that.
That is a perfect 90-degree angle in the form of a triangle where they didn't do a very good job. You know,
they didn't.
I'm going to tell you right now, when I did my initial report on this, I didn't zoom in this close.
Okay.
I didn't analyze the frame by frame because I was so amazed at what had occurred with what is labeled Jupiter in this piece of footage. But now that I see this closer, there's no stars here. This was started. Oh, my God.
They can probably even paint stars on. You realize that. They just put a little dot here and there. But they obviously didn't bother in that area. Well done at all. They are obviously counting on us not analyzing these pictures very closely. So they think they'll get away with everything. I mean, that's one of the reasons they don't like me, because I look at these images, and if somebody comes to me and says, no, you're wrong, no, you're wrong, that's really is Venus, and I say, sorry, but Venus cannot do that, you know, I stick to my guns, because I know that my thinking is correct. It's logical. It cannot be Venus. When I say it's not Venus, Venus cannot have plasma ejections. It's got to be a star.
I have to agree. Now, this photograph, this comes from the stereo ahead imaging from the H1.
Yeah.
And once again, ladies and gentlemen, this is almost identical to the red image that we just looked at. This is showing you what they have labeled. Follow my cursor. This would be Venus. This would be Earth. Right over here would be Mercury. Now, there's a small object down below here where my cursor is. It was unidentified before. I don't know what it is, but cluing in on the object that I'm circling, this is supposed to be Venus. And what you're about to see.
No, that's that's Jupiter.
Yeah, that's supposed to be Jupiter.
At least they labeled it Jupiter, but it's not Jupiter. So, you know, they call the larger one that's in the image, they usually call that Venus. And the other ones become other planets, whatever they think is right or fits.
Now earlier, I asked you about this large disc, this large spherical disc. And, you know, again, I mean, I can't buy a rebuttal that it is I hate using the word, lens flare or camera anomaly or blah, 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 because it just, I mean, it just looks too perfect.
Yeah, it is too perfect, because I think what they actually did was draw it in or stamp it on or something. Because look, if you look at it, it's too perfect to be a natural object. I mean, the outline is too perfect. So it would have to be like a transparent object close to the spacecraft. I mean, it couldn't be that big that it was as far away as a planet is, because there's no way a man-made object could be that big. So it would have to be close to the camera. But we actually see the solar wind, the solar jets in front of it. Okay, so that's impossible. We cannot have that. We cannot have an object that's close to the spacecraft and it's behind the ejections from the sun. That's impossible. So what I think they actually did was they stamped it on, or they drew it in or something on the image itself to tell us not to look at the discontinuities at the edge of that image. And if you look inside, there are two purple arrows. So one purple arrow points to the edge of that circular thing, and the other purple arrow points inside. And if you look inside, there's an area there that's darker blue, and there are no stars there.
Nothing.
That whole area around there. And I think what they did was they painted over something in there. So they used this thing in the images to hide another object, probably a very large object in that area. I mean, if it wasn't large, they wouldn't make that circle that large.
I mean, this
so this
absolutely amazes me that the boys in blue at NASA are like, they use like paint by numbers. I mean, they're like literally in art school. This is ridiculous.
They are.
Yeah,
You know, well,
I wanted to take a look at this. I wanted to actually zoom in, since we did that to the other photograph. Now
that's a good idea.
Oh my. I don't know if you can see that. But
so you see, there's a shape there. Yeah, there's a shape there that I think is the object close to the Earth that they are painting over. You know, there's a kind of a shadow and a black line above it. They have done a lot of manipulation over there. They may even have painted some stars on top of their brush strokes. That's what I think.
So what I'm theorizing right now is, if you want to get a job at NASA, you have to have an art degree in art and graphic design.
Yeah, or you have to be a movie maker. They make a lot of those as well. Rather than show us real footage of outer space, they show us an animation.
Wow. That just doesn't even look good. That's horrible. I mean, you can actually see right here a perfectly round object.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not the only one. I've seen lots in these images. I don't even want to point to everything. I usually like to focus on something in the images. Otherwise, I'll be pointing to just about everything in the image. It gets very confusing. But I try to stick to the most. And there's definitely, I think it's important that there's an object close to the Earth. And I think it's a brown dwarf star. And it goes together with the magnetopause reversal that we've just seen. So the two, and I like to put things together, not just have evidence from one source, but have two sources, put the evidence together, and that makes it much more powerful. You know, it's like having two witnesses. Two witnesses are more powerful than one. And that's what I like to do. And you can see it's manipulated. They are hiding things like, you cannot believe. Like they are desperate to hide these things from us. Why are they desperate to hide the truth from us? You see, what's happening in the solar system is actually such a wonderful opportunity. The whole of physics can be rewritten by us studying what's happening to the sun. But instead, they are hiding it from us so that we cannot actually have proper observations.
That I would have to agree with you 100%. Now these images, I'm going to have to zoom into these, and what I'll do is I'll zoom into one of them, and we're going to be taking a look once again at Jupiter moving out, moving out of the field of view to the right. And you're going to see, and I'll just go ahead and start zooming into this photograph right now. Let me get it into play.
Yeah, that shows a whole lot of plasma ejections coming off the object they labeled as Jupiter. Yeah, and there is no way. There's no way. And they say, some people say that's a lens flare. Well, if it was a lens flare, it wouldn't appear in the SRAM images. There cannot be lens flares in SRAM images. But they appear in SRAM images. So there's particle emission coming off that plasma loop. It's a plasma loop. Only a star can produce a plasma loop. Look at the size of that plasma loop. It's huge compared with the object. only a collapsed star, in other words, a brown dwarf star, would produce a plasma loop of that size. I mean, it's probably the same size of plasma loops we obtain, actually even a little larger, but it's a small star that's producing that, so it's got to be a brown dwarf star. And it's got a high magnetic field. It's probably rotating very fast. Yes, you see the dark object there. I don't actually understand why they don't cover that up properly. You know, they could just paint over it, and they're obviously not painting over it. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure why they do that.
It looks bad. It looks very bad. There's just no doubt.
They think that because it was in the images earlier on, or last year or so on, and people thought, oh, well, that's just the Earth. We don't know what it is. The Earth just looks like that in these images. They decided to just leave it in to make sure that everybody thought was normal. Well, I don't think it's normal. I don't think it's normal for any planet to have a black area to the left side of it. It's not normal. So I think they actually get caught by trying to explain their own lying ways by, you know, saying the same thing and things like that. It's like all liars eventually get caught because lying doesn't work. Eventually somebody finds out the truth.
You know, as I'm blowing this up even more, whenever you were talking about the aspect of them possibly painting in little stars, if you start to take a look at the little stars, they are very highly pixelated in a perfect square, in a perfect little square. You would only get that effect if you basically cut and pasted something in there. See?
Exactly.
There's no other pixelization anywhere except where you see here, and they are known to use that little square pixelizing technique on the LASCO and SOHO. They use it to, you know, cover up what I feel they're covering up UFOs around the sun, because I've seen them, oh my, thousands of times. I have thousands of pictures of large, massive spacecraft near the sun, and these are not icebergs, as one debunker.
Iceberg?
Yeah, an iceberg.
Oh my goodness, an iceberg in the sun's corona, that's ridiculous.
Exactly.
How could it be? And you see the large plasma ejection coming off Jupiter there. I mean, that is about 10 times larger than the planet appeared to be. So that is impossible. That's just impossible. It's a plasma ejection from a star.
Now, I'm going to go ahead and move down here. And whenever this occurred, whenever this, I don't even want to call it a CME, because it's really not a CME, what's occurring over here. But you can see what happened to the effects on the camera. You went from a very nice clear image, and then the next frame, this massive amount of, I'd have to refer to it as interference.
Yeah. No, they usually always do that at the latest images for these particular images. I don't know if it is because they think there might still be something there that they haven't been able to hide yet, and because later on, a few weeks later, these images sometimes look better. You have better definition. So I think it's part of their plan to still look at the images to see if there's still something there that they don't want us to see.
Now, right over here, we're circling that this is the beginning of this this flaring or this plasma ejection that was supposed to be Jupiter, that now left the right side of the frame.
Yes.
As soon as it left the right side of the frame and left our point of view, then we see this ejection come from the right and move directly to the left. And you know, I mean, we now know from your experience and your education that would be impossible for a planet like Jupiter or any planet to produce that type of plasma ejection.
That's right, because planets are not made out of plasma. Only stars are made out of plasma. Plasma is ionized, hot, glowing gas often so hot that there are fusion reactions happening in it. Sometimes in the plasma loops themselves. The plasma loops are often the hottest parts of a star, and they go right up into the corona and they heat up the corona. And in the plasma loops, you have fusion reactions going on. And so only a star can produce this kind of turbulent, hot, ionized atmosphere, which we call plasma. And they are so powerful and have such a high electric field that they eject plasma away from their own bodies. So only stars can do that. There's no way planets do that. They don't have plasma. They don't have hot plasma. They don't have hot glowing plasma.
Now, what I'm showing here now is the SREM images that you were referring to, and I'm just going to go ahead and jump ahead. Do we have the? Yeah, we do have the.
Yeah, you see the plasma ejections there. I don't know if I'll show all of them. One of them should have the plasma loop. The plasma loop is a little bit faint there, but in the second last image, there's a little bit of it left. Below the arrow, you can just, not much of it left. I don't know if I've put much of it in these ones.
So where the tip of the yellow arrow, is, that is what is left of the plasma ejection that they labeled.
Yeah, that's right.
Labeled it Jupiter, but we know that it was not Jupiter because Jupiter could not produce.
Yeah, and you can see it's definitely not a lens flare because it's in the SREM images. And if you look at Venus, it's having plasma ejections as well. And I looked carefully at that plasma ejection, and it actually seems to change orientation with the black part, showing that the object is rotating. And if you can see it rotating, and in other articles I've written, I went into it a bit more carefully. It actually seemed to me to have about a 27-hour rotational period.
Oh my!
Now that is very fast for a star. That's nearly the same as the Earth, a tiny little planet. So that shows you as well. It's a brown dwarf star. Can have don't forget our sun has a 24-day rotational period. So this 27 hours is extremely fast for a star, but it's the core of a star. It's what's left of a star. That's why it's called a brown dwarf star.
So that would produce, if that object is spinning that fast,
yeah,
that's spewing out a ton of its energy.
That's right. It is spewing out energy anyway because it's having ejections all the time. It usually starts out when it comes into the solar system having ejections across its ionized cloud. Eventually, it has enough energy to start ejecting from the core of the star, and it starts blowing holes in the cloud. And eventually, it may actually blow the whole cloud away or burn right through it as it starts thermonuclear reactions on its surface. So that's what's
scary situation.
Yeah, it is. But these objects are attracted to the sun, so they hang around the sun, and they're draining it, and they're getting the energy from the sun. And we can see what's happening with our sun. Basically, oh, there, you can see the plasma loop there. Do you see that?
Yeah, here's the plasma loop right here.
Yeah.
Where
there's the plasma loop. Yeah.
And this is,
and then
that's actually, would that be the object right there that they labeled Jupiter, or would that be part of its plasma ejection?
Now, I think that's its plasma ejection. We cannot actually be sure of how large this object really is because, as you know, they manipulate the images. But that's supposed to be coming off the planet Jupiter, and that is much, much larger than the planet looked. So
you're correct. That's about 10 times the size of what was shown in the other images.
That's right.
And this is just an incredible picture. Oh.
Yeah. So this is, I call it black plasma rain. The black means it's proton. So the sun is having a sort of a rain type of ejection. It's not normal. I think this means the sun becomes unstable because of the presence of these objects affecting its own potential. And when it becomes unstable, I've noticed it has huge explosions. Amazing things happen to it in the direction of these objects. And I think this is one of those instances. But it also suggests that there are objects there that are affecting it. And one of them is that one labeled Venus, and the other one is the other one labeled Jupiter. And
Just
possibly the one close to the Earth.
Now this
Yeah.
picture here, this image is going to be pretty interesting. Let me go ahead and get this fit into our screen.
Yeah, look at that.
I mean, that just looks like an
That's-
explosion spewing
Yeah.
out of whatever, you know, whatever was here.
Yeah, it looks like a CME. It looks very similar to the CME you see on the right, which is in the next image, but it's coming off the sun. Notice that you get blobs and gas, and well, it's plasma being ejected, it's CMEs. And all these blobs, you see the same type of chaotic blobs mixed together there, except they're whiter.
Yeah.
Which usually means it's ionized particles, heavy ions, yeah. Whilst the black is usually protons, I think. So you see, it looks like a CME coming off a star. That's what it looks like. Look at the CMEs coming off the sun. They're just larger because the sun is larger. So
Well,
that's what's happening.
Incredible. Yeah, that's pretty incredible.
Yes.
Still image there. You know, something that I'm noticing, oh, this is just bad. This is just bad.
Yeah.
How can there's a cutoff line.
Yeah, it's cut off. I was going to say it's been cut off. Someone painted over it. They didn't want us to see how large that ejection really is.
That is
It's probably
that's absolutely stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. They didn't expect us to zoom in like this, Scott.
I have to look at this even closer.
Yeah, look at that.
I mean, that's a perfect,
I noticed that the plasma.
that's a perfect line. They put a ruler up there, and they.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah. They may have done this in paint. I don't know.
I would just love to see the real images without this being doctored and them trying to deceive everyone. I mean, you can almost see a spherical object here. I know it would probably be hard to see on a computer screen, you know, coming through YouTube and a live stream, but that is cut right down the middle.
Definitely, because I've seen some of these plasma ejections, say in 2011, and they looked a lot larger. And when I looked at these, I thought, they're making them shorter, trying to make sure that we can think that it is really Venus. And but you know, as you can see, I mean, if it was really Venus, what need is there to hide anything? The fact that they are hiding these things shows us that it's not what they say it is. They are actually giving us the evidence. It's like when these people come along and say horrible things to us and try to ruin our lives. I mean, if we were totally wrong, why would they bother at all?
Yeah, right. Why would you break out a ruler and put a perfectly straight line right through there? Because we know damn well that perfectly straight lines and 90-degree angles do not exist in nature.
Exactly.
And they did a they did a good job there drawing that straight line.
Yeah, well, they're actually helping us, Scott, because the fact that they are doing this is further evidence that what we are saying is correct. They are actually adding to the evidence. Maybe we should,
That's ridiculous. I mean, that is just absolutely horrendous, the deceit.
Yeah, that's right. The deceit and the lengths they are prepared to go to hide this from people is unbelievable. Why? Why not just tell everybody the truth? Why hide it? You know, and that's what you and I are doing. We're trying to tell people the truth, and they are trying to deceive people.
Wow, they need to hire some people from. They need to hire some people from an art institute.
Yes.
Because that's just bad. I mean, this is a totally other frame. They did it again. They did it in all of these SREM images.
Yeah. And you can see the cutoff there.
So,
Straight line. I'm actually thankful that they're so bad at hiding it, Scott. Because otherwise, I wouldn't have all the evidence that I have, and I wouldn't have found out what I have found out. So I'm glad for that.
that's bad. They're horrible. So I think we were at the end. I'm going to scoot all the way back up here, but we were at the end here. I'm going to go ahead and get all the way out of here. Oh, sometimes I have problems with this thing.
Oh, that's okay. We all do.
There we go. And I'm going to move us right back over to here.
Okay.
And bingo, we're back.
Okay.
Well, I think that we uncovered and answered a lot of questions. I mean, you answered a lot of my questions because I've been taking a look at these images from that last week of March.
Yes.
And, you know, I was going over them and over them again and again and again. And I kept saying to myself, there is no way that Jupiter can produce this type of action, this type of reaction. This has to be something of significance. Let me get this information to the doctor, you know, and let her analyze this. And you did a fantastic job,
Thank you,
cluing me in on this. But, you know, as time goes on, each and every day, actually, we are probably going to come up with more and more of this conspiracy. And you know what? I want to just say this, ladies and gentlemen. The conspiracy is not on our side as Planet X researchers and investigators. The conspiracy is on the other side, because we are not the ones doctoring images using paint by numbers and Sharpie magic markers to deceive anyone on this planet that is looking at these images. And don't forget, our tax dollars paid for these spacecraft and this imaging equipment to be in space. That's why we have public access to it. But in all actuality, we really don't have access to it. What we're really looking at sometimes is the boys in blue paint by numbers. That's all that it is. It's like a coloring book. And they're trying to hide things that are actually there. It's not make-believe, it's actually there. And we're proving it little by little. Well, Doctor, we're coming close to the end of our interview. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, I think I've said everything. I'd just like to thank you, Scott, for having me. And I must say that you do the work of a scientist. You look at all these images and you consider what's actually going on. I mean, some physicists and astronomers would look at it and just say, no, there's nothing going on here.
Well, that is exactly what they do.
Looking at it.
Yeah, that is exactly what they do. You know, I mean, that's why I have never, well, I did one time. I did one time ask for the help of a professional astronomer. I mean, this gentleman owns his own observatory, very, very rich man. And he's actually an astrophotographer now in his retirement. And he literally built a small observatory on his property. And I mean, he's retired now. And I went to him and I asked him and I showed him some of the initial photographs and some of the initial evidence. And I saw the look on his face. I understood the body language that he was showing. And his only words were, listen, I have 2 daughters in college, one graduating this year.
Yeah.
I understand. And that was it. That was it. End of conversation. He turned his back and walked away.
Yeah. These people know there's something going on. They are afraid for their lives. And because some of them have been killed and they know it. So they don't want to get involved. That's what happens.
Well, I think, well, I hope and I pray that we are beyond that stage of, you know, having people disappear. I actually have been told by a very close military friend of mine that they do monitor every little thing that we do. And that is one of the only reasons why these YouTube channels have not been shut down. And, you know, people haven't been actually, like, you know, taken into custody and questioned and interrogated, because they know everything that we're doing. And they're actually using the information because they're getting information from a multitude of sources, not only what the space agencies are producing, but what really hardcore investigators are coming up with from around the world. So they are letting us go. They're giving us enough room to continue, and they're watching and they're listening and they're analyzing. So, you know, it's a very sad.
That's good.
It's a very sad situation that humanity is like this. I never thought in a million years that, you know, growing up as a teenager, going to college, having a great career, and then I find myself in the midst of all of this. I think about it every single day, you know, and then when I read the emails that, you know, subscribers and viewers send to me, and I read their comments, you know, a lot of times some of these emails are very personal, they're very touching, and it just pushes me to go further. I can close up shop at any minute just by hitting the delete button and walking away. But I don't think that I would be able to sleep at night knowing that all of the work that I've done and that you're now doing, and a lot of the other people that are on YouTube trying to gather this information, I think they feel the same way, that you know, you just can't turn around and walk away at this point, because what does that say about you? You know,
Of course.
I mean, you yourself, you have the education and the background to help us, and that is so greatly appreciated and very respectable and honorable. And at this point in time, no matter what the threats are, no matter what the situation is, I just want to let everybody know I'm not going anywhere. And if anything, we're going to keep on plugging away day after day, and we're going to try to help wake people up. So any last words before we let all of our viewers go?
Well, I'll just say, let us keep on looking and showing the truth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Doctor, I'm going to ask you to just stay with me and hang on as I end our broadcast. And ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to thank each and every one of you for viewing and staying with us. And hopefully everything that we went over today was able to, you know, open your eyes a little bit, open your mind a little bit. And again, as I always say, knowledge is power. And hopefully today, watching this interview and this presentation, hopefully you gained some knowledge, and that is exactly what we're here for. This is Scott and our Doctor of Physics from Planet X News and the NIBIRU channel. Thank all of you very much for watching, and stay tuned. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Planet X News. This is Scott from the NIBIRU channel. Today, we are going to be speaking with our physicist, and we're going to be going over some information that occurred back on March 23rd and 24th. And this is concerning a complete magnetosphere and magnetopause collapse. Ladies and gentlemen, this was a very serious situation that occurred back on March 23rd. And it just so happens that during this 4 hours of footage, NASA immediately deleted this footage, and we were not able to see it. However, one of our Planet X researchers, and his name's Pete, he has a fantastic YouTube channel, WHDCO, and I'll leave a link to his YouTube channel. I actually previewed this information in a video 2 days ago, And Pete was able to capture this information before NASA deleted it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you have to take into consideration, why would they go to the extent to delete this information and replace it with something that would look normal or basic information pertaining to the magnetosphere? And if you don't know what the magnetosphere is, well, this is what protects us from the solar winds from the sun. It continually gets buffeted by the solar winds whenever we have these coronal holes. And as of lately, once again, we have coronal holes opening up on the sun just about every single week. And this has been going on now for, well, I'd have to say pretty close to a year, almost a year and a half. So we have our physicist here, and she's a very, very busy lady, but she's been researching what has been going on. We also have another situation that occurred, and this has to do with Jupiter, well, what NASA labeled as Jupiter, creating a very large plasma loop, or what seems to be this huge flare or plasma ejection from Jupiter. Now, as I've mentioned in the beginning of March, we were going to be going into this very critical planetary alignment with Jupiter, Venus, the Earth, and the Sun. And this was going to be a very critical time for us here on Earth. Simply, Jupiter has a massive magnetic field. The Earth has a magnetic field. And when these two planets are going to interact, basically we're going to have a magnetic portal connection between these planets and the sun. We already have the theories and pretty much evidence pertaining to the presence of a brown dwarf star or several brown dwarf stars in our inner solar system. And this type of magnetic portal connection with all of these objects can and will be very devastating. And ladies and gentlemen, we are only in the beginning of what is possibly going to occur. So we have the doctor here. She's going to go over some of this information. She has written a paper on it, but before we get to that, we're going to go over Pete's video footage. And I actually think that Pete is probably the only one in the world right now that actually captured this information before it was deleted. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull up this information. So, doctor, how are you? How's everything going?
I'm fine, thank you, Scott. And how are you?
Well, you know, under the circumstances, I could probably be a lot better, but there is so much happening around the world, so much happening with our planet, so much happening within our inner solar system. You know, it makes me wonder sometimes whenever I go to sleep at night, with what little sleep I get, whenever I wake up, what's going to be on my plate today. But whenever I looked at this information and I got word of this, what happened in the middle part of March, was very startling because we've had several magnetosphere and magnetopause collapses, reversals. I believe we had one last April 2016, then again in October of 2016, and now here we are in, you know, March, the middle of March of 2017, and it occurred again. But this time it was very violent. I'm just going to have to use the word because I have never seen anything like this before. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the actual video footage that Pete was able to capture. And just let me go ahead. I'm going to share my screen for everybody.
Okay.
And we could go ahead and we'll take this apart piece by piece.
Yeah, it's actually, as you say, extremely violent. It's totally unexpected. You cannot imagine a thing like this actually happening. The magnetopause actually collapses completely. And the Earth is left defenseless, it seems.
Yeah, I would say defenseless is actually the perfect word because, again, I mean, I was able to see what happened last April. I was able to see what happened last October. But this time it just seems that NASA was right on top of it. I think they knew something like this was about to occur, and they immediately deleted the footage, and replaced it with, you know, maybe some animated footage from a period of time when the magnetosphere was actually looking pretty normal. So I'm going to go ahead and play this, and if you want to be our sportscaster and give everyone a little play-by-play on what you're observing and what you think is happening, so I'll go ahead and play it.
I mean, the magnetopause just about disappears. It folds on itself. It becomes totally chaotic. The solar wind goes right in. You can actually see the radiation going right in towards the Earth. So it's unbelievable. I didn't even think this was possible.
Yeah,
amazing to watch.
I've never seen it this violent. And I'm going to go ahead and stop it right there. And I'm just going to give all of our viewers a quick explanation of what we're looking at. And ladies and gentlemen, you can see the sun over here to the right, and that would be the actual positioning of the sun. Naturally, this would be the positioning of the Earth. And this structure that you are seeing here that's just all intertwined is supposed to be an arc around the front of the Earth. They refer to it as the bow shock. So as solar winds come from the sun at well over 1 million miles per hour, they impact the bow shock and they are deflected away from our planet. So whenever this bow shock is collapsed in this fashion, everything coming from the sun directly impacts the Earth. This situation is very dangerous, very detrimental to every living creature on this Earth. And they covered it up again. But the big question is, how does this happen? Why is this happening? And it seems like this is happening with a pattern and with frequency. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to play this. And if you want to take over, Doctor, you can.
So Scott, what you see is actually a higher density on the wrong side of the Earth. That is on the side away from the sun. As you can see, that red spot, that's where the density is higher.
Yeah, right at the
for solar particles. Okay, so you see it's on the wrong side. It's supposed to be higher on the solar side, not on that side. You can see that's the high radiation going right into the Earth. It's just flowing right in. Yeah, because the magnetosphere is not protecting the Earth at this time. So everybody on Earth got hit by a whole lot of radiation at that time.
Yeah, this was very, very bad. This was a very, very bad situation. Yeah. I mean, I think sometimes that, you know, maybe the boys in blue at NASA don't know. I just don't think they know what to do when these situations arise. I don't think that they want to warn everyone, but, you know, it's not only NASA, it's every space agency on this planet, because they all look at the same thing and they all know what is happening right now. So I'm going to go ahead and let this play on.
Yeah. So the only way this could possibly happen is if another object with a high magnetic field was somehow affecting the Earth. So this is the only way, and it's possibly, it's either behind the Earth or below or above the Earth. I don't think it's on the solar side, because on the solar side, it wouldn't do this to the magnetosphere. It's got to come in sort of from behind and make it collapse.
Now, the last time this occurred, the last time that this did occur, it wasn't as violent, but this time it just looks absolutely crazy. And I mean, I would have to say that, you know, you're pretty right on target. Whatever was causing this was definitely coming from another direction and not from the direction of the sun towards the Earth. Because if that was the case, it would have collapsed the magnetopause around the Earth and not the opposite way towards the sun. And it looked like it just completely dismantled it. And this went on for, I don't know, I think Pete referred to it as this happened for like 4 hours or maybe even more. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what we're looking at here is the magnetosphere. And usually these lines, all of these spaghetti lines that you see, they will usually be flowing in a very nice pattern behind the Earth. These are the magnetic field lines, and this is all computer animated, but this is the way they read it. Now, everything that you see here, all of this scattering of all of these lines is total disorientation. So I'm going to go ahead and play this, and Doctor, you can go ahead and take over. And
yeah, well, they go completely chaotic. And as you mentioned, I looked at the reversal in October of last year, and it was worse than the April one of 2016. So it looks like they're all getting worse, and this is the worst we've seen so far.
Yeah,
and the magnetic field lines go completely chaotic. It's like they don't know which way to flow anymore because the Earth is being impacted from the wrong direction.
yeah,
and it's obviously, and look at that object. I mean, that has to be something there. That is not anything to do with the Earth's magnetic field. That's another object causing that. That's the intense black lines all together, entangled together. That looks like an object was behind the Earth there.
That would be causing this behind the Earth,
Yeah.
somewhere off in the distance.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that I did want to ask you, whenever you're looking over here in the lower right-hand corner, where they have the little color scheme, where it's blue, white, blue, green. So as we, these are pressures, correct?
Yeah, well,